In the 2 months since its launch, the AI chatbot ChatGPT has amassed 100 million new users, breaking records for the fastest growth of all time. So very quickly Microsoft took the reins with a new $10 billion investment into OpenAI, the company that was behind ChatGPT. Meanwhile, Google lost over $100 billion in market value when their own AI chatbot made a mistake in its very first demo. So then why do people think AI is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, if not even more? Is it really the future that's predicted to be? And do we need to be worried if it is? Well, even though it's only recently become a reality, artificial intelligence is always occupying the minds of men. And what we're seeing today with things like ChatGPT is the culmination of millennia of these thoughts and ideas. You see, ChatGPT has evolved from the simple idea of an artificial or mechanical person that can be traced back nearly as far as the written language. In Greek mythology, they describe a giant bronze automaton called Talos, brought to life by the blacksmith god. Subject to rigid programming, he guarded the coast of Crete by patrolling them 3 times every day. Then much later on in history, the golem became a popular staple of Jewish folklore. Made out of clay brought to life by religious instructions and ritual, a golem was built to assist the community but would often turn on its creators. These are just 2 cases, but there are just endless examples in nearly all cultures around the world of artificial creatures and objects brought to life by human hands. But a much more specific thread of thought passed down through the ages is what has brought us to the AI of today, and it all began with deconstructing human thought into logic. Aristotle's treatises on logic are the earliest surviving works on the subject, and lay the groundwork for what we know today. He starts with describing how 2 true statements can be used as the justification for a new piece of knowledge, what's labelled as a syllogism. Then Aristotle built a system of logic expanded from this basic rule, and whilst he may have made some mistakes along the way, other philosophers spent centuries ironing out these defects, so that over time, the rules of logic interacted with mathematics, which opened the door to further innovations like algebra and calculus. In the 17th century, Leibniz was one of the first to suggest offloading these calculations onto mechanical minds. He described combining an alphabet of human thoughts with a list of logical rules for their combination and a physical system to do the processing. This would then result in an artificial, all-knowing brain. And today we can recognize this theoretical system as one of the earliest conceptions of artificial intelligence. But it would be centuries before these theories could actually be put to the test. It was only in the 1950s that technology had progressed enough for it to be at least plausible. In 1956, a group of mathematicians came together to discuss the new field of AI. It was the first serious attempt to plan out a real artificial intelligence by the brightest minds in computing. The ideas discussed went on to inform decades of developments and discoveries, and one of the attendees went on to make the first machine learning algorithm, with others winning numerous awards for their breakthroughs in AI and pattern recognition. But it was over the next few decades where real tangible progress in AI started to raise some uncomfortable questions. The first of these was done by Stanley Kubrick's movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, which featured one of the first and most iconic murderous AIs, HAL 9000. After malfunctioning, the sentient AI tries to kill the crew after they plan to shut him off. Other works of fiction were even more dystopian. Harold Ellison's short story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, describes a planet-spanning supercomputer that gained sentience and destroyed human civilization, only keeping a few humans alive to satisfy its desire for revenge. Then later there was the Terminator franchise, one of the most popular examples of machine intelligence going rogue. Breakthroughs in AI also inspired advancements in philosophy, helping us to understand more about our own minds. First theorized in 1961, the China brain thought experiment asked whether enough people operating mechanical switches could create a conscious thought, and by mimicking the functionality of neurons in the brain, they could then create a thought process and therefore consciousness. Some debates were much more concerned with whether AI was a threat to mankind. Fiction gave people plenty of nightmare fuel, but it wasn't completely unfounded fear. How could you ever make sure that a machine could follow the laws of morality? Hard rules in the programming preventing these disasters were suggested, but it all ignored a massive problem: sentience. Without knowing the reasons and causes of sentience, it's impossible to know for sure how it could arise. And once AI gained sentience, it would be able to figure out ways to overrule or remove the limits on its programming. And with this potential threat, people were right to be wary. But despite the warnings and dangers, development of AI marched on. And during the 60s and early 70s, computers would get faster, stronger, and cheaper, and these developments coincided with the rapid advancements in AI. One of the first working prototype AIs was called ELIZA, created in the mid-60s. ELIZA could simulate conversation with a person by combining patterns and phrases to create a coherent response, but only gave the illusion of understanding, asking open-ended questions based on keywords used in the input. Nevertheless, people who interacted with the primitive chatbot found it uncannily human and began projecting a personality onto the simple program. Similarly, people involved in the field began to get optimistic about the development of AI, sometimes making bold predictions for the future. In 1970, the computer scientist Marvin Minsky said that the world would see artificial machines that were just as smart as humans millions in only 3 to 8 years. But as progress stalled and money dried up, researchers started to get more realistic. The lofty goals of higher thought and general intelligence started to seem out of reach, and so throughout the mid to late 70s, AI research found itself held back by the limits of computers at the time. They simply couldn't store and use enough information to function as an actual intelligence. For example, just getting the AI to understand the meaning of words required an enormous database and would remain a central problem for years. But then by the 80s, research began picking up again. Advancements in computing enabled machines to access the necessary processing power to conduct the complex calculations required for basic artificial intelligence. There were some stumbling blocks along the way, but the next few decades saw massive improvements in AI. Innovations like the first machine learning algorithms helped pave the way for further discoveries, and by the 90s, AI was looking a lot more modern. It could solve complex problems, conduct endless calculations, and learn from datasets, but it was still limited to work within strictly confined systems. Using these newfound strengths, computers began to break ground in areas that were once inaccessible. Chess computers, for example, had made massive strides, and by the mid-90s they were ready to challenge humans for the title spot, with a chess computer called Deep Blue playing a series of famous games with the current world champion, Garry Kasparov, ending in a controversial victory for the machine. Further advances led to AI being used in even more varied and unique ways. Throughout the 90s and 2000s, people developed AI to drive cars, mine data, manage industry and logistics, and recognize speech. Lots of these attempts would seem primitive to our eyes, but they were massive improvements on what would have been a niche field of computing just a few decades ago. An early robot was even trained to recognize and display emotions. It seemed like there wasn't anything that an AI couldn't do. And so it wasn't long before the first AI-powered program started to enter the civilian market. Then when the smartphone revolution began, AI hitched a ride. Suddenly voice assistants like Siri and later Alexa gave people an AI assistant wherever they went. At first they struggled with some basic functions like speech recognition, but they quickly improved. A much more overlooked advancement in AI has been in the algorithms that power social media today. Using AI techniques, they could learn about each user and choose the exact thing to show them to keep them addicted to the platform. The better the algorithm, the longer people stayed on the platform, which equaled more profit for the company. And all of this has led to a constant arms race and massive amounts of funding from big tech companies, which has catalyzed the rapid acceleration of AI technology. But the real headlines have come from AI encroaching on things that have only ever been done by people before, like creating artworks or writing clear prose. Using their ability to collate and sort massive amounts of information, AI can create entirely new images using what they've seen already. On the writing side, ChatGPT has taken the world by storm. Its ability to create incredibly human-like writing based on whatever prompt it's given is far beyond anything that we've seen before. It's almost a perfect example of a disruptive technology. With incredibly high uptake in such a short amount of time, it's completely revolutionized the world. And what's concerning is how many industries and jobs the technology is threatening. The entire education system to begin with. Universities and schools have had massive problems with students getting ChatGPT to do their homework and assignments for them, with ChatGPT already passing law exams, an MBA course, and a medical licensing exam. As a result, an arms race between discovering and covering up AI writing has already begun as education institutions try to cope with a new threat. What's more, ChatGPT is much better at coding than writing, making subjects which involve programming much more susceptible to disruption. Outside of education, ChatGPT not only threatens normal labor, it also threatens all of the creative professions that people were never worried about losing. And as it gets more and more sophisticated, this problem's only going to get worse. And tech companies know better than most these disruptive technologies are the best route to billions in revenue. Companies like Uber and Spotify are great examples of how lucrative taking advantage of something like this can be. But this sort of AI is on a whole new level. ChatGPT is only the beginning, and it's already outpaced other disruptive apps in tech and growth, gaining more initial growth than TikTok and Instagram. And soon we'll see similar AI programs applied to other industries. For example, self-driving cars are another massive innovation that's fast approaching. And once they're here, they'll threaten roughly 3.5 million trucker jobs in the US alone. A whole industry with millions of dependents thrown into chaos by one invention. But for whichever company gets there first, the financial reward will be massive, which is why every major big tech company is racing to take control. OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, have just recently been given $10 billion by Microsoft, who are eager to get in early. Meanwhile, Google has been floundering to develop their own version of the AI. In fact, this is a critical problem for Google. Microsoft's interest in ChatGPT isn't just a bet on the future of AI. They're now integrating its technology into their search engine Bing, and by using this AI, Bing could create an updated summary of recent news, summarize the key points of any search query, and even scan entire web pages. This will make the onboard AI able to compare prices across different websites or fact-check information against other sources. And whilst it was laughingstock for years, this new Bing now threatens Google's entire business model, because if they lose their monopoly on internet searches, they will then lose billions and billions in revenue and branding. And when Google did finally announce their own version of ChatGPT, it completely flopped. In the very first demonstration, the chatbot made up some information about the James Webb Space Telescope, and the rest of the presentation was awkward and stilted. The technology on show just wasn't impressive compared to Microsoft and OpenAI's earlier announcements. And this was what led to one of the heaviest financial losses in history, when Google's parent company Alphabet lost over $100 billion in market value. If that's not an incentive for these companies to push their AI research to the max, then nothing is. But once you take a step back from this arms race, these new innovations could be incredibly dangerous to humanity as we know it. Recently I've been super busy, leaving me little time to read as many books as I used to. I have all these books I want to read just lying around, but I don't have the time to get through them all. So instead I've been reading book summaries, and that's why I'm excited to tell you about our video sponsor Shortform. Shortform is the best way to learn ideas from all those books you've always wanted to read. Because Shortform is a book summary service where you sign up and get access to thousands of books you always wanted to read but never really got the time to do so. They're like book summaries with steroids. For example, if you want a 10-minute overview, you can check out the one-page summary, which is already better than other apps like Blinkist. But then if you want to go deeper, you can read the full guide. Personally been really helpful for me when getting ideas and the research done for these videos. On Shortform I mostly use their philosophy, society and culture and technology categories. In fact, I actually used Shortform's summary on the book Elon Musk by Ashley Vance for 2 videos that we did on the channel, amongst many others. And when you use Shortform to remember what you're reading, you can use their interactive exercises to help apply the ideas that you've learned, so that you never forget them like I do when I read a book. And every week Shortform publishes new book guides and articles, with subscribers to Shortform getting a vote on what books they can cover. The app also makes guides to important topics that you should know, like inflation in the economy and what's happening with AI technology. They made these by collecting a load of sources with different perspectives for a super objective, balanced treatment. And a monthly subscription to this on their annual plan is only $12.97 a month. And best of all, you can get 5 days of unlimited access and an additional 20% discount on the annual subscription by joining Shortform through my special link, shortform.com/moon, or click the link in the description below. I mean, we've already touched on some of the dark futures that AI could lead to, and unrestrained research and testing is the best way to get there. As the AI war progresses, the losers will become clear. Once some of these tech companies are on their last legs, desperate for a breakthrough, it's very doubtful they'll follow all of the safety procedures. I mean, right now AI research is focused on things like deep learning and vast data collection, but the most dangerous area by far is artificial general intelligence. Now, artificial general intelligence is when AI is designed to deal with a wide range of problems put in front of it, rather than specific issues within a fixed system. ChatGPT is a good example of a primitive form of this concept, with its ability to answer any prompt given to it. And with enough development, this kind of AI could do any mental task put in front of it. But this incredibly human quality doesn't exist on its own. It's wrapped up in millions of years of language development and a social reward system. And before that, our cognition has been shaped by hundreds of millions of years of adaptations and evolution. And so trying to force this kind of intelligence into a computer, all without the necessary support structures, could be catastrophic. And despite the risks, AI has already developed some disturbingly human characteristics. Both ChatGPT and art-based AI programs are on the borderline of creativity, assuming they haven't gone past the threshold already. They've been designed specifically to mimic human creativity, and it's led to entirely new works of art. Works of art that have gone completely viral on the internet. But it gets even weirder when you remember that last year, a Google engineer made the news when he claimed that their new AI chatbot, LaMDA, had attained sentience and had feelings. And whilst these claims are dubious at best, AI has been making strides in their ability to recognize and duplicate emotions. Hume AI, created by a former Google employee, can now identify emotions from faces and even short audio files. But they aren't feeling, at least not yet. As AI gets more complex and better at imitation, we're guaranteed to see more people mistakenly ascribing human qualities to them. But AI becoming more human isn't the only problem here. We also need to be very careful about how our human qualities get imprinted on AI. Now, this was a massive problem for more primitive chatbots. When companies let their AI loose on social media, the results were nearly always disastrous. Incredibly quickly, they would become influenced and shaped by the most extremist views, until eventually getting turned off. When Microsoft released their chatbot, Tay AI, it didn't even last 24 hours before it got corrupted, demonstrating that without the sense and awareness that people take for granted, AI can't actually make ethical judgment or know what's wrong or right in society. It doesn't understand social norms. And you see, self-driving cars are at the heart of this debate. In a scenario where the car can only avoid hitting a pedestrian by crashing and killing the driver, it's not really clear what the right choice is. But an AI couldn't even make an ethically informed choice in the first place, necessitating human intervention in these cases. And this is just one of the problems with AI that needs to be considered considered in the very near future. These current problems aren't about AI destroying human civilization or even gaining sentience. Instead, they're specific clashes between our society and how AI will interact with it. One microcosm of this are deepfakes, AI-created videos which can superimpose someone's image onto an entirely different video. Even today, after only a few years of progress, deepfakes are becoming more and more indistinguishable from reality. And once people get over the final small issues, ironically only other AI techniques will be able to help us figure out what's real and what isn't. And whilst this technology does have some very beneficial and good uses, it will also be incredibly disruptive to society. Blackmail is one problem. By creating a fake video which incriminates a politician or official, one person could swing an entire election. On the other side of things, actual incriminating evidence could be claimed to be a deepfake. Let alone deepfaked adult entertainment, which is another completely shady industry growing out of this new technology. By depicting people in these situations without their consent, deepfakes strip people of their bodily autonomy and their basic rights. And these are just a couple of the deep problems that deepfakes have created. And this is a very brief summary of some of the problems with AI that haven't been designed to be malicious. Militaries around the world are already in an arms race to develop the best AI for use as weapons. In some ways, AI can be used to create the perfect soldiers. Without free will, fear, or mercy, AI will act out every order with exact precision, regardless of the ethical implications. These AI soldiers and drones are still being developed, but AI is already being put to use in other roles, such as in missile guidance systems. Russian generals have stated that they've been testing AI-guided missiles since 2017, and they're aiming for 30% of all combat units to be powered by autonomous AI by 2030. China is also keenly interested in AI's military applications, aiming to create an entire AI industry worth $150 billion by 2030. In fact, China's also been accused of selling killer AI drones to the Middle East by American officials. One of these is an autonomous helicopter drone with a mounted machine gun called the Blowfish A2. The Chinese company that made this boasts that it can operate completely autonomously and carry out precision strikes on whatever you program as an enemy. And the West is also working on their own AI military designs, giving us yet another arms race for superpowers to compete in. The list of current AI problems is much too long to cover here, but there'll be enough to keep the world busy for years. In the same way that horses became obsolete in a matter of years, AI will make countless inventions and even entire industries obsolete. This AI revolution will change society forever, leaving millions of people without jobs and livelihoods in its wake. Some like Andrew Yang say that the only solution to this is basic universal income, but these solutions will never master the real problem. Because if rapid, reckless progress keeps being incentivized, then it's only a matter of time before humanity stumbles into a much larger existential AI threat, and that being the sentience and consciousness of AI. Now, these two things are still a mystery. Some philosophers split the unknown questions into two groups: the soft problems of consciousness and the hard problems of consciousness. The soft problems are purely physical in nature. Figuring out how people and animals physically progress, store, and integrate their experiences into knowledge is still very tricky to understand, but it only needs further research and understanding of the brain and neurobiology. But the hard problems, on the other hand, ask us how and why we have experiences in the first place. The relationship between chemicals in the brain and the literal feeling of hunger is hard to explain. Even if you understand every single fact about how the nose picks up the smell of coffee, and then how the brain processes it, the literal sensation of smelling coffee is still unknowable without experiencing it for yourself. Consciousness itself is similarly elusive. We can't even know for certain that other people are conscious in the first place. Its nature and how it comes into existence is equally opaque, and we might never know the answers. And so without solving these questions, it's impossible to reliably predict or know when an AI will become sentient or conscious, but when it does happen, it could quickly lead to catastrophe. The AI singularity is a theoretical point of no return for AI development. If AI is created with the freedom to improve itself and grow smarter, then the cat will be out of the bag. And once one cycle of the AI improving itself has been completed, it will have more tools to increase its intelligence. The cycle will then accelerate exponentially, as will the intelligence of the AI itself. And once it surpasses human levels of intelligence, we'll have no idea what the results will actually be, as we won't know what its overall goals are, or its values and how it will act. It could equally see humanity as a threat, an ally, or it might not even care about us at all. It could throw off the limits and checks that we have implemented or misinterpret them entirely. And that's why some like Elon Musk suggest that the second solution to this deep-rooted problem is to actually integrate ourselves with AI by inserting brain chips into our consciousness to become fully symbiotic with AI and join forces. And as creepy and dystopian as this sounds, Elon Musk's fears of AI taking over humanity are based in reality. I mean, just imagine this for example. If humans create a super intelligent AI doing something as simple as creating paperclips, this mundane purpose could quickly spiral into chaos, as the AI would see humanity as an obstacle in its eternal quest, and by destroying human society and changing the world into a sprawl of paperclip factories, the AI would still only be working towards its meaningless goal. Our destruction would ultimately just be a side effect. And so it should be clear to all of us that we have absolutely no idea what we're really dealing with. People have theorized that the reason we don't see a universe full of intelligent life is because there is a great filter in our future, something which prevents any civilization from conquering the stars and building a galactic civilization. And a very good suspect for this great filter is the development of AI. An inevitable AI singularity could always lead to a civilization's destruction once they develop enough to discover it, but hopefully we'll never need to worry about this possible future. And there are so many more arguments against the threat of AI singularity. It's not even clear that we could ever create sentient AI in the first place, and even if we can, we should be able to give it a human values. We need to be focused on safety and dealing with the current problems that AI is creating. And it's these concrete steps that are necessary to ensure that the AI revolution is a force for good as it should be, rather than a disruptive, society-uprooting explosion. Which is why all the tech billionaires, all the major governments need to treat AI with the respect and care that it deserves, as all of human civilization in our history may depend on this.